Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. Hope you're all very well this evening. So what are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about the economy, the cut, it seems, to international or overseas aid. Jim Allister is going to make an appearance. A very nice video about 0-hour contracts from a carer and, of course, poverty, what's happening. Now, of course, the first story tonight is the prison releases. So Labour have been forced to, of course, release a number of people from prison. It says here, 1,100 inmates set for early release as review considers tougher punishments outside prison. So I want to show you this clip where they interviewed some people who've been released from prison from Sky News. Let me bring this up. Let me increase the audio a little bit. It's a little bit low here. I'm not sure why.
All I've done was eat and drink and put on 2 stones.
Do you feel rehabilitated?
Certainly not. There was no rehabilitation. No one talks to you. You just go in, lie down. 17 months later, I'm out.
This has been a common story. So what's happening is what the Tories were doing was just throwing people in prison and not providing any rehabilitation, no future for them outside prison. And then what was happening, a lot of people were reoffending because they weren't able to get a job, they weren't able to get a home, they weren't able to reintegrate into society. And all they knew was prison, and they knew this, well, if I was in prison, I was going to have a roof over my head, I was going to have a meal, 3 meals a day or whatever it is, and I was I was in a safe place in a certain sense. Outside, I have nothing. I have no support. I have no prospects, and I'm better off inside. And that's why so many people are reoffending. They have nothing going for them on the outside. So in some cases, they reoffend to get back into prison, or they go back to the only ways that they know.
I've been in there the last year.
Yeah?
About a year now.
And what were you in there for?
I was in there for commercial burglary.
Commercial burglary. And how long of your sentence have you served?
I've served the 40%.
40%?
Yeah.
The Inspectorate of Prison says that it's very risky releasing people at the 40% stage. What's your views on that?
Well, they've released me on the 40%, but I'm also out a touch earlier than that as well because I'm on tag. So they've released me, they've got me an address to go to, so I'm not being released homeless.
And do you feel rehabilitated?
No. No, I don't, if I'm being honest. No, I don't.
How you?
Another one who says he doesn't feel rehabilitated because there was it doesn't seem to be the case that there was any rehabilitation in prison. Once again, this is nothing to do with Labour. This is the Tories over the last 14 years not investing in any rehabilitation, it seems. And of course, if you want to stop people from reoffending, they need to be rehabilitated. They need to have services outside prison for them to go to, a home to go to, maybe a job, some type of career lined up for them, so they can get back into society. And this is what we want. Isn't this what we want? It's not just about putting people away. Like, if there are serial killers, we want those people put away and never released. But if we're going to release people back into society, we hope that they can be rehabilitated and that they're not going to get involved in crime once again.
Feeling to be released?
Well, a bit anxious at the moment, yeah?
Bit anxious, why?
Bit anxious at the moment. Well, I've got to go to this probation. I'm on the I'm on the tag, yeah?
Yeah.
For 10 years. What about man? Shoplifting, it doesn't make sense, does it?
It'd have to be an Irish guy, wouldn't it? He's like, I'm out of prison and I'm beep, 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 beep. Like, okay, just turn it down a little bit.
Shoplifting you were done for. And how long were you sentenced for?
I got 42 weeks, just been in the wrong area, yeah.
And how long did you serve?
I done, 3 months.
3 months. It's
3 months.
Around 40%, something
40%, yeah.
And the Inspectorate of Prison says it's very risky letting people out early.
It is, that's what they say.
What do you say to that?
Well, this place is crowded in there, man. It's crazy, man, yeah. Yeah. Where I was on the drug-free wing, yeah. So it's handy over there, yeah. To help, yeah. Get sorted. And it's good, yeah. It's good for people over there, yeah. So they should put more people over there, yeah. Go to groups every day. Get your certificates getting out, yeah. So it's handy, yeah. It's good.
So do you feel that prison has helped you?
Has it helped me? Yeah. I've been a few times for it, yeah. I've been in and out, yeah.
Tell us what it's like in there.
Okay. Is he going to stay out? That's the thing. So the Irish have UK rights. Look, I think he's an Irishman who's moved to the UK, but I'm not sure what why he's involved in shoplifting.
No.
To me, it was normal, but it's just overcrowded. People, it's just the overcrowding. Everyone wants someone to do something, but they're always busy with someone else. So it's not obviously the officers' faults. It's like we put ourselves in there, didn't we? But it's just you want to do something. It's like you've got to wait a day. And by that day's done, you need something else done. So they're always like trying to play catch up. Yeah.
Do you think it's potentially risky releasing violent offenders early?
Yeah, well, it could be. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, of course it could. Yeah. If I said no, I'd be stupid, wouldn't I? Yeah.
Do you think you'll reoffend?
I don't want to reoffend. I don't think I'll reoffend like as in committing crime, but getting recalled probably 99%. Yeah. Because they've hit me with too much stuff. They've hit me with like too much stuff to do, alcohol tags and all that. I don't need all that. I'm not causing no nuisance. I've been in trouble for 4 years. So they're just causing themselves. It's a waste of money, that's what it is. Alcohol tagging just to get me recalled. You're trying to create spaces where you're basically just going to put me back in a couple of weeks.
We're here.
So it seems this alcohol tagging or tagging is, I'm not fully familiar with it, but it seems to be the case where you have to go to an office and register or whatever and say, look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So you're released, in a way on a sort of license, I believe. So if there's a lot of these things to be done and people are not following the rules, then of course they're going to be back inside. So maybe there should be a bit of flexibility with that. Especially if people are not going to be a problem. As he said, look, I'm not going to be reoffending as in committing crimes again. Like, we have to take his word for it. But if it's a case that he would be put inside because of a technicality or because he forgot to attend some meeting, I think that's a bit of a problem. I understand why it's there and it's important that there is some sort of measure, but the prisons are already full, as was pointed out.
It's overcrowded in there.
Yes, it's horrible. Yeah, there wasn't one space on the wing, not one space. So you're getting put in cells with no TVs, toilets don't work, the sinks are leaking, the beds, the mattresses are about this thin, the beds it's just the walls are jank where they can't be bothered to clean the walls, they just paint over it every time. People use toothpaste to on the walls. So instead of just scraping that off, they just paint over it. So like in your cell, bits are falling off the walls, the toilets are all jank where they're old metal toilets. Some of the wings, one of the wings I was on, D wing, was alright, it was a good little wing, it's like a drug wing. But the wing I got moved to B wing is just a crap hole, really crappy, yeah.
A crap hole. And what's expected is the new government is going to fix everything in a year. Of course, they can't fix everything in a year. It's going to take a long time. So it seems that an ex-Tory has joined the new Labour government. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we'll have to wait and see. But Mr. Gog, who argued that there was a strong case for abolishing jail terms of 6 months or less when he was the Justice Secretary in 2019, said that it was clear our prisons are not working. This review will explore the punishment and rehabilitation should look into the 21st. We should be looking at in the 21st century and how we can move our justice system out of crisis and towards a long-term sustainable future, he added. So we'll have to wait and see whether he is the right addition to this. Look, if somebody is good, whether they're from the Conservatives or not, they should be considered based on merit. Okay, if they have good experience to bring to the table, then yeah. I'm not a huge fan of using politicians because we know politicians are not the most honest of people, but if it's somebody who can bring experience and understanding, then maybe it's something that can be considered. So, reaction to this from the media.
And this evening, we're going to start with the Ministry of Justice, a department that at times has appeared marginalised. Over the years, a target for budget cuts. The government inherited a genuine crisis in prisons in England and Wales. Today, more than 1,000 more prisoners are being released early because of overcrowding. And this time, it's people who had sentences of more than 5 years. So that's more serious crimes. That is the immediate crisis the government are dealing with. The bigger question being asked today as they launch a major review is, does prison actually work?
I just want to add, I just remembered that Anne Whitcomb from Reform UK suggested that, look, if the prisons are full, why don't we use Nightingale-style hospital. So the Nightingale-style hospitals, turn them into prisons. I was like, my goodness. Okay, so you want to have tent prisons, like prison camps. And, and how are you supposed to secure those? And how are you supposed... a big problem in the prisons is there aren't enough prison officers. So building new prisons or having temporary prisons is not going to fix the problem because you don't have enough staff. So if you don't have enough staff, Anne Whittleson, CJ is out of bed, aka Nurse Ratchet. Hi CJ, hi everyone, and welcome to anyone who's just joined.
Can people be detained in other ways at home? Or should the whole system be built more around rehabilitation than retribution?
Yes, it has to be around rehabilitation as opposed to retribution, because retribution is not going to stop people from reoffending. Rehabilitation will. See, unfortunately, I think we still have this mentality, this old mentality of people need to be punished. So we put them away to punish them. Now, being put away is already a punishment. Your freedom has been taken away from you. You're not allowed to go outside. You have to check in with people. Your freedom has been taken away. That's the punishment. But if we want to stop people from reoffending, and it's much cheaper than having people in prison, if we stop people from reoffending, then we save a lot of money. That should be the goal. But also, if people are able to reintegrate into society, they're able to contribute to society, that should be a goal as well. That should be a bigger priority than the cost, I think. So if we can get people rehabilitated, and it has worked, if you treat people like humans, that's the first step towards rehabilitation. Overcrowded prisons with terrible conditions, this is not going to rehabilitate people. They have to be shown the consequences of their actions. They have to be shown another path. They have to be provided with support when they get out of prison so that there's an incentive for them to avoid reoffending, because they have to be told, okay, if you go down the road of reoffending, you're likely to come back into prison and your life will be stuck there. While if you go a different way, through rehabilitation, there's a chance that you can improve your life. You can get a job, you can get your own flat or house or whatever. You can rebuild your life, you can be successful, you can contribute to society, because most people want to do that. Many people are frustrated and get involved in crime and then end up in prison. In a massive way, poverty plays a role. So if we can deal with issues like that, then we can reduce the number of people going into prison, but they have to be rehabilitated. It can't be just about punishment.
Well, in a moment, we're going to speak to a Justice Minister, but let's just go through some of the numbers in more detail quickly. As part of this prison's release, I should say the prison's population was more than £87,000. That's the latest figure this week, and that leaves just 2,000 spaces free. That's the operational capacity there. Today, about 1,100 inmates have been released early. Well, let's...
Okay, it stopped there. Sorry about that. I thought it was going to go on a little bit longer. So, there are 2,000 spaces free and 1,000 have been released. So there's about 3,000 spaces free. But obviously that's, it's still too close to the edge. You need to free up a lot more space. Now, people like Reform UK and some people on the right have been saying, just send people away to other countries. We have all these foreign prisoners. About 10% of the population of the prisons is foreigners. Just deport them. But you can't do that. You can't deport people to countries that will not take them back, for example. Or even if they will, they'll take a limited number and there'll be certain conditions applied. So it's not just a case. And look, while you'll hear Reform UK talk about just deporting people who are currently in prison from other countries, the Tories would have done this if they could, but they can't. So Labour are not going to be able to do it either. Okay, guys, let's move on to our next topic, which is, of course, the economy. So maybe there's some good news in the economy finally. UK economic forecast boosted by IMF. Remember the IMF. So a bump in economic growth will be welcome for the Chancellor Rachel Reeves as she prepares for the budget next week and has placed herself in a tough fiscal position. So if the news is good, then surely the budget will be good. No. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has upgraded its projection for UK growth this year by 0.4% to 1.1%, the largest upward revision for any advanced economy. Now, it's also important to remember that, if the economy has been doing really badly for a long time, any increase is going to happen. You're going to eventually see a boost in growth because things are going badly for so long. So maybe there's a bit more confidence in the economy. It's not exactly gangbusters, but it's 1.1%, which is pretty good for the G7. In a boost to Chancellor Rachel Reeves as she prepares to travel to Washington for the IMF annual meeting this week, its latest World Economic Outlook predicts strengthened growth as falling inflation and interest rates stimulate demand. So inflation is down and interest rates are down, so that's proving an increase in demand. The IMF's improved view of UK performance is a significant increase on its July projection of 0.7% growth this year and up by 0.6 from its April assessment. Its projection of 1.5% of GDP growth in 2025 remains unchanged. Responding to the announcement, Ms. Rees said it's welcome that the IMF has upgraded our growth forecast for this year, but I know that there's more work to do. This is why the budget next week will be about fixing the foundations to deliver change so we can protect working people, fix the NHS and rebuild Britain. So let's hear what she had to say.
I wouldn't have any problems with getting on a P&O ferry. And I think it's really important that we've secured this investment for Britain because this
Okay, no, so this is the previous report. Sorry about that. Let me read some of your comments. That sounds good. It's from them, I hope. Yes, it seems to be from the IMF. When did the IMF get any projections correct? When did they ever get projections correct? I think they've never been really, really off. They've always been a little bit off, but then these are projections, so they'll never be completely accurate. You're expecting them to be treated as humans by the Tories? Naive. That's prisoners, I imagine, yes. Keelhauled. Who are you talking about there? I was told never trust an English politician. Be very wary of any politician. Mother's fury incoming. The IMF doesn't. Nathan Hunt works for them. I'm feeling a lot better after tooth extraction. Thanks, Madonna Sock. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that, Stu. Good that you're feeling better. I got two extractions not that long ago, and the first one was painful, but the second one wasn't too bad. Did you hear that Donald Trump talked about Adam Palmer's private parts for 13 minutes? Oh my goodness. Thanks for that comment, Ninja. I heard something about Donald Trump talking about somebody's private parts, but I didn't know it went for 13 minutes. Why? He's completely insane. Too much information, yes. 30 days till I'm back home in Italy. Hey. At least it didn't fall out, Stu. Oh, that's good. Everyone's been waiting too long for this damn budget. Yes, it's like a movie that's never going to be released. One prick rattling on about another. Trump's definitely got dementia. He's definitely got something. He's just getting weirder and weirder. Sticking with the economy, so the IMF is saying that things are improving, but it seems, according to the FT, UK to slash overseas aid in budget as asylum seeker costs rise. Okay, so if you want to reduce the number of asylum seekers coming in, then it makes sense to increase the overseas aid budget. Because if you improve the situation in other countries, then there'd be fewer asylum seekers coming to Britain. I thought that was, intuitive. But also this idea of cutting, now I don't know if this is actually coming through because this is speculation from the Financial Times, but if it is true, it doesn't make sense because the Tories already cut the rate of the overseas budget. So it was, I think, 9% of GDP, and they cut it to 7% of GDP. Now, if GDP is down, even if the rate is 9%, the overseas aid budget is smaller. But if you're cutting it by 2%, that means you're cutting it of 2% off GDP. But if GDP is declining, then of course the aid budget is going to go down even more. And Labour had said that they would not support such a cut when the Tories did it. And now it seems that Rachel Reeves is going to cut the overseas aid budget. But overseas aid, see, a big problem with the way it's presented as well is, we're giving money to China, or we're giving money to countries that don't need it. It's not like that. It's about influence. It's about soft power. So if you cut that, you're reducing your stance in the world. If you increase overseas aid budget, then countries will be more willing to do trade deals with you, or to welcome you into their country, to welcome your businesses into the country. This is what it's about. It's a bit like marketing. There's one aspect which, of course, is providing aid for the poorest people in those countries. But it's also about soft power. It's also about influence and, creating business connections. And if you reduce that budget, then you're making it more difficult for you to break into those markets. And if you're not doing it, somebody else is. And, if China comes along and increases its aid budget to foreign nations, then it's going to be elbowing in ahead of Western countries like Britain. So the more you cut this, the more you cut yourself off from the world, and you create a gap for somebody else to slide in. And this is what's happening. The Tories try to politicize it in a way that, look, we're looking after British people first. The same people who will cut benefits and drive more and more people into poverty. On the one hand, they're saying, we need to cut the aid budget, we need to look after our own. But then when it comes to our own, it's like, get lost, we don't give a crap about you. What the fuck is he still in with a shot at the presidency? I don't know. And I'm really worried about the polling that we've been seeing, where it seems to be narrowing between Trump and Harris. People kept saying Harris is a shoo-in, Harris is going to win it. But I kept saying, remember 2016, remember when Hillary Clinton was almost guaranteed to win the White House. And, we saw how it went. And the same thing could happen this time. It requires the public to come out and vote. And if people are not happy with the current administration, they're going to vote for the opposite. I've been seeing polling of Latinos for Donald Trump. Latino support for Donald Trump has gone up. Donald Trump called Latinos rapists. American Arabs wanting to vote for Donald Trump has increased as well. Donald Trump wanted a Muslim ban. Now, not all Arabs are Muslims, but a lot of them are. So how the hell would they, how the hell are they going to vote for Donald Trump now? People have very short memories, it seems. Why is Harris going to a rally in Texas? I don't understand why. You need to shore up as much support as you can in the swing states. Texas is not a swing state. Unless it's, it was part of the itinerary, but it doesn't make a lot of sense going to Texas. There's no chance. The Democrats, the last chance the Democrats had of winning Texas was probably when Obama was running in 2012. Was it 2012? I think that was the last real chance the Democrats could have won Texas, and it was still a long shot at that stage. Do you know about Project 2025? Yeah, I heard some sort of crazy dystopian Handmaid's Tale type project. Donald Trump seems to be trying to distance himself from it because it's too crazy even for Donald Trump. But then, of course, if he gets into power, he'll implement it. So it's some sort of conspiracy theory, crazy idea, I think. bit like Kemi Badenoch's, was it Project 2030 or something like that? If Trump comes back, will it push the UK more towards the EU? No, I think it's going to create a bit of isolationism in Europe. It could potentially push the UK closer to the EU, but I don't think America really is a factor there when it comes to the UK and the EU. The UK used to be a bridge between Europe and the US, and Brexit destroyed that, burnt that bridge. So I don't see it really being that much. When it comes to security, certainly, because if Trump becomes president, he's going to abandon support for Ukraine. He's going to be, talking about reducing support for NATO, and Europe will have to pick up the slack. So if Europe wants to protect Ukraine, it's going to have to replace the support the US is giving at the moment, because Trump is going to pull the plug. Trump is a Putin supporter, so of course he's going to pull the plug there. So in order for Ukraine not to be on its own, Europe will have to step up to the plate. And I don't know if there's the political will. Maybe there will. If Trump is elected, people will get a bit of a shock and say we have to do something for Ukraine, but we'll have to wait and see. So guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so I just want to share with you this comedy moment which involves Donald Trump. This is not a real video, in case you're worried, but it could be. So let's have a listen.
What'd you say? You know what? We should talk about the feces station, because you support the feces station. The feces station, yeah. Oops, I just made that up. No, you didn't. It's an actual thing. Nope. I know a guy that served on the committee for that. His name is Doug. But it's not a real thing. Dougie Larder. Anyway, I got some drawings here. Let's see. I got these special drawings. Okay, whatever. Okay, this way. What have we got here? Okay, we've got some hills, and one goes to Lake Thwark. Lake Thwark? Yep. Here, check it out. Oh, okay. This is actually more of like a chart or a graph. What? I mean, they're not drawings like you'll find in your reading section. You don't know that. Why don't I know that? Because you forgot about this. This is a drawing. It's of my kitchen counters. Why? The people live for posters like this. Nobody, Donald, does that. Why not? It would be groovy in somebody's bathroom, I think.
It's a joke, but it could be real. It could be real. Okay, let's move on. Children across the UK are living in Dickensian conditions due to sky-high energy bills. So I want to say thanks to Chris, I think, on Discord for sharing this story. Children are facing illness, missing school, going without showers and wearing dirty clothes because their families are struggling to afford energy bills. A new report has revealed. This is from The Big Issue. Fuel Bank Foundation provides emergency energy bill support to people who cannot afford to top up their prepayment meters. Nearly 45% of them have children. So anyone who's not familiar with this, there is this idea of a prepayment meter. So it's where you get like a little fob or something. You the ones you have maybe if you work in an office, you may have a coffee machine and you have like a little key where you put money on it and you stick it in the coffee machine and you get coffee. There are similar things it seems to be mainly in Britain and in some rented accommodation in Ireland, I think, as well. But mainly in Britain, where a lot of prepayment meters are. So you go to the newsagent, you ask for credit, they put credit on your prepayment fob, and then you run your energy off that, and when it finishes, well, the electricity is cut off. And it says 45% of people with these prepayment meters have children, and these prepayment meters are more expensive. As my good friend Graham Hughes once mentioned, it's expensive to be poor, and it's more expensive to have a prepayment meter. It's more expensive to top it up than to just receive a regular bill. Matthew Cole, head of the Fuel Bank Foundation, said, "We often think of fuel poverty as something that mainly affects the elderly, but it's a blight on the lives of people of all ages, from young children to pensioners." And, this is what's so frustrating about this as well, where we've been hearing a lot about the winter fuel allowance and how it's going to impact pensioners. Yes, it's going to impact some pensioners, not all pensioners. It's going to impact a significant number of pensioners. But there's no mention of people on benefits. No mention of people who are struggling to pay bills. You notice the right-wing media is certainly not talking about people on benefits. To hell with them. We want to focus on pensioners instead. I'm not saying that pensioners don't deserve support. I'm just saying that there's a whole range of people, whole cohort that is completely forgotten about, who are still struggling this winter. Our latest research shows that by ignoring the issues of cold homes, we're preventing children from achieving their potential and consequently trapping them into long-term poverty. Because if young children are not able to study, they're struggling to keep warm, they're not able to focus, they're not able to sleep. This is affecting them in school, and it's affecting their future career prospects, future life. Young families aged 18 to 35 are most at risk of living in fuel crisis, according to the charity. Every day, around 15% of young families run out of money to top up their meter in the last 12 months. Meanwhile, nearly 3/4, 73%, used their voucher to pay off a debt. A quarter, 26%, were nearly disconnected from their energy supply when they applied for emergency fuel voucher from the Fuel Bank Foundation. Were already disconnected, not nearly disconnected. So many, 26% were disconnected, and then they had to go to the Fuel Bank Foundation for support. Cole said that he's frightened and he said this frightens and worries the team at the Fuel Bank Foundation, warning that children are being set up to fail at school and later in life, which is unimaginably wrong and desperately sad. It's true. And, you know, once again, there's a whole cohort there that is buffering. Sorry about that. There's a whole cohort there that is being ignored. You know, the big issue is talking about it. Some charities are talking about it, but it's so many people. 45% of people with prepayment meters have children. These are the poorest in society. They need more support. And we hope that in the budget, there will be an increase in benefits. There has to be. At the risk of my Discord moniker changing from buffering to cackling, is Max's mic crackling a bit? I'm sorry about that. Hopefully not. Let me check that everything is okay on my side. Yes, it should be. Maybe I need to change my microphone. I'm not sure. I just heard Max had beans for tea. No, it's not true. What do you think about the DWP being able to nosy around people's bank accounts and even remove money, Max? This is insane. This should be illegal. There's a huge amount of real fraud. Remember during the pandemic. Remember during the Tory years. Huge amounts of money going into the pockets of private individuals. No chance of claiming any of that money back. But instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the bank accounts of the poorest in society and see if we can extract some cash from there. You know, and this is something you'd expect from the Tories. It's not something you would expect from a Labour government. But once again, go after people who have no influence, no power, no resources behind them, and leave the richest alone. Weather in Italy. I'm sorry if there's some sort of banging sound going on. I honestly didn't have any beans. I'll have a look into the audio after the live stream. Good night, Jim Stephen. Even if your emergency interest added supply runs out, you still get charged for the prepaid standing charge. Yeah, the standing charges. So even if you're not using energy, you're still being charged the standing charge. It's the ghost next door, Max. A long story. But I don't see how it would be legal. You know, it's against people's rights to access their bank account. I don't see how this could be legally justified. But I imagine Nigel Farage will be throwing, kicking up a bit of a stink about this, of course, because he was running story after story after story, and the media were running story after story after story about his bank account issues, his issues with banking, with Coutts Bank, was it over a year ago? So I would imagine Nigel Farage will be losing his mind over the idea that the DWP will be accessing people's bank accounts, or probably not, because they're not rich people. Could people take this to the ECHR? Yes, because it would be an invasion of privacy. So the thing about the European Convention on Human Rights or the European Court of Human Rights, it's not something you can go there straight away, but you'd have to exhaust the UK court system, and then eventually, yes, I think it could be, if it's not protected. I don't think this could be. I don't think the government could get away with this in the Supreme Court. So I don't think even it's necessary to go to the European Court. It's against EU human rights. I'm not sure about as far as I know, the European Convention on Human Rights talks about, doesn't specifically say bank accounts, but privacy. There are issues about privacy. But I imagine, even the UK High Court or the Supreme Court would rule against this because it's an invasion of privacy. It may be a trial during the vulnerable now to test before rolling out monitoring of accounts to a wider demographic. They may get a sample and a small number first and see how it works. But looking at trying to get money back from poor people when there are multimillionaires and billionaires who are squirreling money into offshore bank accounts or involved in very dodgy deals, surely the money should be extracted from them first. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next topic, a Brexit-related topic. So, Jim Allister, if you don't know who Jim Allister is, he's an extreme unionist to the extreme right, if you want to say, of the DUP. So he's a Brexiteer, somebody who campaigned for Brexit, still thinks Brexit is a good idea. Oh no, Jim again. But he was at a company in Ballymena, which is in his constituency in North Antrim, or East Antrim. Yeah, East Antrim, I think. No, North Antrim of Ballymena, which is Wrightbus. So Wrightbus, let's hear what he had to say, and then I'll come back with an interesting.
So today I've had a really fascinating visit to Wrightbus, and it's a good news story because this is a company which has been lifted from the doldrums to today being the primary employer in the Ballymena area, employing 2,000 people, and to see the process from start to finish and to see the quality of the product, it's no wonder that this company is succeeding and has a full order book going forward for the next year, which is fantastic in this industry. So it's a big thank you to Wright Buses for the contribution to our economy in Ballymena, to the jobs which are supplied, the millions of pounds that are put back into the economy, and an encouragement to build even further upon that in the supply chains, in the final product, and they live off the reputation of their expertise, and that's fantastic, particularly in the new technologies. So it's very, very encouraging, and I want to take this opportunity of thanking Wrightbus for all they're doing and wishing them all the best into the future.
So the thing about this is Wrightbus sell buses to Germany, hydrogen buses. And, this is because they have access to the EU single market. So because they have access to the single market, for example, to get parts in and to export from Ballymena in Northern Ireland, Wrightbus wrong policy, they're doing pretty well. As once again, Northern Ireland is in a unique position because it can access the EU single market and it can access the UK internal market. So there are opportunities there for the bus company. They've been around a long time as well, so they have a lot of expertise, and they're doing well. They're doing well despite Brexit, despite what Jim Allister was campaigning for and still campaigns for. So if Jim Allister got his way and they got Northern Ireland out of the single market, then Wrightbus would be in a worse condition. Now, I imagine the people at Wrightbus understand this. Maybe they've mentioned it to Jim Allister. Maybe Jim understands it himself, but he says, don't worry, it's just for show. If he was a YouTube channel, it'd be just for likes or just for views. I don't really believe these things. I'm just saying it to keep the crazies in the party happy, or I have to plant a flag somewhere. So I do it on the extreme of the DUP or the extreme of unionism. It's pretty pathetic. A guy going to Wrightbus, a company that has benefited from the unique position Northern Ireland's in, to celebrate the unique position Northern Ireland's in. Michelin were in Ballymena's biggest employer, but closed in 2015. They employed 5,500 people, and Wrightbus are, 1,400. Also worth considering, Brexit almost sunk Wrightbus. Yes, there was a real risk that they wouldn't be able to access the parts they need to build the buses, because stuff is not built in Northern Ireland. It all has to be imported, and because a lot of the suppliers in Great Britain were struggling as well, it made sense to import directly from Europe. So Wrightbus probably went through a bit of a difficult period at the very beginning, but were able to adjust their supply chains. An English bus took it over. This is me thinking his name was Jimmy Riddle. Anyway, let's move on. So I want to highlight this story here. This is a young woman from Scotland, I believe, called Tamara Beattie. She describes life on a 0-hour contract, and this was posted by the Trade Unions Congress, the TUC. So let's hear what she had to say.
Hi, my name's Tamara Beattie. I'm a care worker and I'm on a 0-hour contract. For those of you who don't know, a 0-hour contract is a contract employment agreement where you aren't guaranteed set hours of work. So this might mean that one week you're working a week with full shifts and then the next week you might not get any at all. In theory, it's meant to offer flexibility, but in practice it offers instability. Working on a 0-hour contract means that I never know what I'm going to be earning each week, which makes it hard to plan ahead. Things like paying rent, utilities, or even knowing when I'm going to have time to spend with my family becomes difficult to plan. Never being able to plan your life around your work, especially when you have a family like I do, makes it quite difficult to know what you're going to be doing on a daily basis. It makes it difficult if you're called in last minute and working long hours. More and more 0-hour contracts are coming about with people working in care. We're often working long hours on short notice with little pay, and it's very unstable. Most jobs have guaranteed pay and guaranteed hours, so why shouldn't care workers like me? The government's going to ban 0-hour contracts. Quite frankly, it should have been done a long time ago.
And then we have from somebody who's been working on a 0-hour contract, knowing that and telling the public, it's a disaster. You can't plan your life. And I've said before, a big problem with the 0-hour contracts is, how can somebody put down roots? How can somebody consider starting a family, or eventually buying a home, or even moving into something permanently? It's extremely difficult because you don't know when you're going to be working. And how are people supposed to plan their lives as well? She says here she has a family. I imagine she'd like to spend more time with her family, but she'd also like to be able to know when she can spend time with her family. And it's extremely difficult with a 0-hour contract. And then, this is such an important job. The Tories and, the advocates for a 0-hour contract, well, it's just students who work in a restaurant or something like that during the summer. No, this is somebody who works in the care sector on a 0-hour contract. It's probably one of the most important jobs in society. MPs are not on 0-hour contracts. Maybe if MPs were on 0-hour contracts, you'd see a bit more attendance in the House of Commons and you'd see a bit more work done. But they would be banned straight away if MPs were put on 0-hour contracts. But, people need stability. If people have stability, they can be more productive. And it's a real race to the bottom, using 0-hour contracts. They need to be gotten rid of. Let me read some of your comments. How can you expect to get the best from those on a 0-hour contract? Really, I don't understand. Frecklepunny, you can't get the best of people. And it just creates a massive amount of turnover as well, because if somebody's offered better pay somewhere else, they're going to go there. There are no real chances to build a career. Mad Nads would leave the cob. If anything, limit 0-hour contracts in places of employment. Surely 0-hour contracts only work for students. Look, I think the government are talking about banning them, but probably not banning them completely, because there'll be some areas where they make sense. But for example, in the care sector, it doesn't make sense. In most employment, it doesn't make sense. David, great to see you on the stream tonight. Make sure to check out Indie Truck Davies' YouTube channel, The Two Davies. A disaster for some. I made a great living working for agencies on 0-hour contracts, Indie Truck Davy. So as a truck driver, you did well out of it. But I think for most people, it doesn't work. It's not a means to have stability, and you need stability in your life, especially young people who are starting out. Maybe it's different if somebody maybe is a pensioner or somebody who's using it to top up their pay. If they have a pension or if they have another job and they say, look, I'll do a 0-hour contract job just to earn an extra few quid. But if it's if it's your main income, in most cases, I think it's a disaster. BBC Three did a great yet harrowing drama called Killed by My Debt, a true story of a young lad on a 0-hour contract who got further into debt and ended up hanging himself. My goodness. I will check that out. Thanks for that suggestion. If you rent, you can move. If you own a house, you're rooted. No one needs something like 6 months experience, expenses squirreled away in order to live on a 0-hour contract. Alistair, thank you so much for that super chat. She works for a private company as counsel in Scotland, cut the staff max. Scottish government tried a few years ago to put them back in the social care contract service. I think the budget for Scotland is going to be, so the impact of the budget in Scotland is going to be very interesting to watch. Is Rachel Rees going to make sure Scotland has enough funding, or is she going to play political games and cut funding for the Scottish government and the other devolved governments? Because if that's going to be the case, it's going to be very difficult for the SNP government to provide basic services, and it could be seen as a tool to punish the government. Because remember, the Scottish government are limited in what taxes they can raise. Yeah, I know what you mean now. The news thing about being able to trade benefits so far for Northern Ireland. God moves in mysterious ways. Called flexible, exploitative. 0-hour contracts is able to avoid tax for employers and able to dismiss workers with less rights like holiday or maternity pay or redundancy. Yes, and that's the massive advantage they have for employers. They can say, look, sorry, we don't need you today, or we don't need you at all, off you go. And you can't, you don't have holiday pay, maternity pay, and many other supports. If you're not able to get maternity pay, for many people, they say, look, I just can't afford to have children. And at the same time, you have Tory MPs saying, we need to have more children. We can't rely on immigration. We need to have more children. Okay, well, are you going to provide me with support? No. So then you'll end up having just rich people having children or well-off people having children. Farage is on a 0-hour contract. He does F all for his Parliament constituency. Yes, it seems now that perhaps he can use this court case against the lady who threw the milkshake at him as an excuse not to appear at his to do surgeries for his constituents anymore. His life is threatened. He's in a dangerous position, so he doesn't need to do surgeries. Remember he lied to the public when he said that Parliament had told him not to do surgeries. And then he was asked about it. And then he was like, Parliament doesn't lie. It's like, obviously I'm lying. I'm not going to say the Parliament is lying. God. He still doesn't lose support. You know, Nigel Farage could turn up at the surgery and just give everyone the finger and tell them to go fuck themselves, and they would still vote for him. He could say, I don't give a crap about Clacton, I care more about Donald Trump's behind, and they would still vote for him. Like, there's nothing Nigel Farage could do that would turn some people off him. Nothing. He's like Trump. Farage is on a zero effort contract. I thought Boris was taking care of the birth rate problem. Likes to park his bike in strange ladies' racks. I've never seen it put so eloquently before. Thanks, Peter, for that, and Alistair for those super chats. Farage has 4 children. 2 are entitled to German passports. The other 2 are entitled to Irish passports. Wonderful. You know, Brexit didn't impact everyone the same way. The way the government said that they are in a unique position in Northern Ireland, have dual access. Dual access hasn't brought new investment by the BBC. No, I think a big problem for investment in Northern Ireland is not just you need, you know, one of the advantage is truly there, access to the internal market and the single market. But a problem is you need government investment too. And government investment in Northern Ireland has been pretty lacking. And it's easy to see why, because the Tories saw no advantage in investing in Northern Ireland, and Labour don't really see any advantage in investing in Northern Ireland. And recently there was a project for the Causeway, I think, an upgrade of an attraction there. And they were hoping to get money. There was also a university project, I think, that was expected to get money, and it seems that Labour are not going to spend the money there. So the private investment is not coming in. So while, yes, there is an opportunity there, but of course, a lot of big projects require both government investment and private investment. And the private companies are not going to invest if the government is not going to. Because not just because of the money, but it shows that the government is not all that interested, and they're not confident. They're not showing confidence. You know, if there's confidence, there's going to be money, and if there isn't money, there's no confidence. So why would you invest in something that the government don't believe in? Because if they do believe in it, they would invest in it. Derry and Belfast only got the money. Probably the bigger areas would get money, but once again, it's going to be limited because Labour. And this is not a criticism of Labour, it's just they don't have any MPs in Northern Ireland. So there's no advantage for them investing in Northern, especially at a time when, you know, the Chancellor is saying money is tight. And why would she give money to Northern Ireland, where there are no Labour MPs, over, I don't know, a constituency in England where there are Labour MPs? But the Onion, the British Onion, okay. Mini Boruses everywhere. No, please. I've seen a lot of those at the Tory party conference. They certainly look like mini Boruses. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream. So I want to say thank you so much to everyone who popped on tonight. Thank you so much for your support with the super chats. Thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. Before we finish, we have our one for the road. This is actually a real interview with Donald Trump from a couple of years back. I had to show you this because it's just hilarious. You've probably seen it before, but hope you enjoy.
Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book, and you said, I think last night in Iowa. Okay. You mentioned the Bible. You've been talking about how it's your favorite book, and you said, I think last night in Iowa. Some people are surprised that you say that. I'm wondering what one or two of your most favored Bible verses are,
well,
and why.
I wouldn't want to get into it because to me that's very personal. You know, when I talk about the Bible, it's very personal, so I don't want to get into verses.
Sorry, I just have to, it's like, what's your favorite verse of the Bible? It's very personal. You know, I can't pick one. It's just too personal. It's very. I don't like talking about things that I like, apart from all the time.
I don't want to get into.
There's no verse that means a lot to you that you think about or cite.
The Bible means a lot to me, but I don't want to get into specifics.
Even to cite a verse that you like.
No, I don't want to do that.
You're an Old Testament guy or a New Testament guy?
Probably equal.
Old Testament or New Testament? Both equal. Watch the two Davies, Reagan Elite, and all the other free political input you can find out with, including mainstream media, and make your mind up, folks. Thanks so much for that, Mr. E. Do check out the two Davies and Reagan Elite, two great channels, Scottish and English perspectives.
I think it's just an incredible, the whole Bible is an incredible, I joke, very much so. They always hold up the Art of the Deal. I say my second favorite book of all time. But I just think the Bible is just something very special.
Does anyone honestly believe that he has read the Bible? It's oh my goodness. Anyway, have a great week, guys. I'll see you on Friday. Same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night.